Welcome, everybody, to our first edition of Sideline to Speedway, the podcast where you get to listen to me and Parker here talk about some football. You get to talk about college and NFL. You get to listen to motorsports later this week, too. We get to talk about some F1, talks about some NASCAR, things that me and him have grown up watching our entire lives and we love to argue about. So we figured, why not make a show about it? I feel like that'd be a very fun idea. You guys get to listen to our quote unquote horrible opinions and tell us how horribly wrong or horribly right we are. And we get to laugh in your face if we're right about it after. So, without further ado, not too much I want to talk about on my part, but Parker, we'll throw it off to you. I mean, how you feeling? Are you excited?
I'm great. I'm ready to go. There's sort of been, there's been a lot of debates in our community. Some people think my takes are better. Some think your takes are better. But I guess the best way to figure that out is to go on a podcast and see how they actually shake out. Have something that we can have proof of our predictions on. You know what I mean? But we're going through a lot in our lives right now with college. And so why not start off the show talking about college football, which has some very hot topics right now. And me and Mekhi have created some playoff predictions, and we're going to go through them with you.
I'm
All right, you want to
terrified.
take it away, or you want me to start?
I'm terrified to hear your predictions, but I almost want to take the bullet first, so I'll let you go first. You want to read me? You want to go? What do you want to do? You want to 1-16 or 16-1 here?
We'll go 16-1. We'll create some tension.
I
All
should
right.
I should clarify for everybody at home. We know there's 12 teams in the playoff. We just did the first four that would be out. To give you
Yeah.
guys an idea of what's going on.
Yeah. Just kind of see some teams that were close, but didn't quite make the cut. So, first off, Oklahoma State, I think is going to be one of the four teams that I have being eliminated. They had one of the worst years in program history last season, but Mike Gundy had a great recruiting class, and I think they're going to turn it around and have a very solid season. They'll get a 10-2 record, but unfortunately, I don't think they do make the playoffs. I have South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Tennessee also all three being out, all SEC teams. And the reason I have teams like that being out is just that conference is so tough. If you're an SEC team, you can't really afford to lose more than a game. You know what I mean? You really have to be on your A game. I have all four of them being out of the playoffs.
The SEC is one of the toughest conferences I've ever seen. Although I have to argue, I think the Big 12 might be, no, excuse me, the Big 10 might be even better. Um, we'll get to that a little later, but I don't have too much to actually disagree with on those first four. I think that's a generally correct, approach to it.
hmm All right. So yeah, now getting into the top 12 seeds. My number 12 seed is going to be Boise State. Um, that pick was they're in a weaker conference, and I see them taking control and being able to make the playoffs that way. I have Michigan making it as well. This would be a great bounce back year from what was a tough year last year with the first year coach. I see them making it, and what you mentioned was a very tough conference. I have Louisville making it as well from the ACC. First of a couple ACC teams that we'll see in my bracket. Louisville's a tough team. They've always been tough. I see them getting in, and then a couple of SEC teams, Alabama and Texas. I have both of them getting in. Now Texas at 8. To some people, that probably seems pretty low. I have them going 10-2. I'm not sure how much. I don't understand the hype for that team. I'm going to be honest. Arch Manning is so new. I don't understand the hype. Um, I have Oregon as my 7th seed going 11-1. I think they're going to be a very solid team. Penn State also making it from the Big Ten. They're also considered pretty much a consensus top 5 team this year. I see them having a great year and making it. I have Notre Dame, the first and only independent team in my playoff bracket. I have them being the 5 seed, and I don't think they lose a game this year looking at their schedule. I think they have a very good, they're in a very good position to make it into these playoffs and have a pretty good seeding as well. Now we look at some conference champions here. We have Kansas State from the Big 12. They're going to be the 4 seed. It's going to be really tough for them to hang with some of these other teams that they're around, but they've earned it. If you win your conference, you're in. Then we take a look at Clemson from the ACC. They get in with the 3 seed. I think they're a very solid team. They always run a very clean, smooth program. And then I have my 2 seed being Georgia. I have them not losing a game as well. I think Georgia was incredible last year. The biggest enemy to Georgia was themselves. They kept shooting themselves in the foot. That's the reason they didn't win the national championship last year. And then I have Ohio State being the number 1 seed. They're the national champions. I don't, they just got Matt Patricia as their defensive coordinator, who's a genius. I think that team is going to be very tough to beat.
Um, so I'll dissect what you said real quick. Starters, Boise State. I have lots of concerns about that team, quite honestly with you. I mean, they lost Ashton Genty, who was their star player, right? I know they play in a weaker conference. The Mountain West is not considered one of the powerhouse conferences. But I know UNLV especially, they were running them down at the end of last season, trying to steal that conference chip. So I mean, I think that's worth mentioning. I also think looking at the rest of your predictions, Michigan, Louisville, real quick. Um, Louisville, I trust them kind of as an ACC team, but I feel like they have tougher opponents within their own conference that make it harder for them to be able to come out victorious and be able to have enough wins to get in. Um, and the most of the rest of what you said, I honestly kind of agree with. I don't have anything that really sticks out at me. I think it's interesting that you have Texas a little low, and that you don't buy into that hype. I'll spare myself from my picks there in a second, but otherwise, honestly, not too much I disagree with there on that front. But Boise State's a bit of a question mark. I'm a little surprised on that front that you really have faith in them that far. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, I'll say this. We'll throw it. I'll take here, and I'll let you judge me because I just judged you. But
Yeah,
I'll show you my predictions with starting the bottom four. I have Iowa in my bottom four. I think they are one of the better, weaker teams, if that makes sense. I think they have a strong defense, but I question their offense. I also have Louisville out and Michigan out, two teams you had in. I think those teams are good. I think they're really good, but I don't think they're great. And I think that subpar play at important, crucial games is going to hurt them. I think that's going to be the big Achilles to them. And I also have South Carolina in my bottom four just because I don't trust the consistency of that team. They've always been very inconsistent, up and down, 6-6, where they were for a few years until they finally broke through, got a couple extra wins last year. So I'd like to see more consistency play out of them, although I am high on that team. Um, I'll move into my bracket though here a little bit. I also have a Mountain West team going into my 12 seed. I think though it's UNLV. I think that team didn't lose many pieces, um, and I think that Boise State losing their biggest and best player, I think that's a big wide open window for UNLV to steal the Mountain West, and I think they'll be the best team of all those um, non top four conference winners to steal a 12 seed there. I don't know if you hate to see that prediction, but I think UNLV is just better
I
than
don't
what
hate
Boise
it.
State is. It's just more consistent. Um, I'll 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 say this: I wasn't as high on Clemson as you. Um, I had them 11, which you
Yeah,
might call me crazy for. But I think Clemson, they just lack an identity. I think Tate Klubnik at quarterback, he's great and he's a Heisman candidate, but he just doesn't scream like he doesn't scream like game-winning quarterback to me. I don't know what it is about him. Like, you look at the past college quarterbacks that go through at these top schools, and you're like, oh, well, I could see them winning a national championship. I just don't see that with Cade Klubnik. I don't know what it is that's missing in his game, but something's missing. I'll ramble off a couple here. Oregon, Florida. Yes, Florida. I'll get to them. I'm sure you're going to have a comment on that. Oregon, Florida, Alabama as well. They're going into my top eight. I had them in the same seat as you. I think that they're I think that they're a strong contender. Or excuse me, I had them a seed higher than you, but I think
yeah, I
they're a
have them at
strong
number 9.
a strong contender. But I think that Alabama just is missing a little something to really compete for the championship in the SEC. Notre Dame at 7. I think that the Independent. I mean, they've always been Notre Dame's always been a strong team. They just made it to the national championship. Just came just short last year. Um, Georgia at 6. I know that you think that's crazy, especially based on your pick, but I think that they're a great team who will go 11-1, one loss on the year. Penn State at 5. I think they'll just do the same thing they've done the last few years. I think Kansas State, like you, wins the Big 12. I think that I know I have a couple Arizona State fans who are going to be at my throat for this one, but I think Kansas State's just a more well-rounded team. I think Arizona State losing again their best player, like Boise State, is going to come back to haunt them in ways that you can't think of off the top of your head. So we'll see how that pans out. I had SMU winning the ACC. Um, I don't know, man. SMU feels like such a strong team. They didn't. I feel like they didn't like lose many players last year in the draft or in transfer portal. I just think that SMU, they had a lot of momentum. I think they're better than Clemson. So I don't know who else would take the ACC from them.
Yeah,
Before you give me your thoughts, I just real quickly want to ramble
better
these
than
two off. I want to ramble these off. Texas at 2, and give me Ohio State. I agree with you on that one. Give me Ohio State at the 1.
wow. All right, so a couple things stood out. There were a couple SEC teams like Tennessee and Ole Miss that you didn't have on there, which I don't blame you for. SEC's tough. It's kind of a toss-up. Um, UNLV making it in, I'm not mad at that. You know what I mean? It seems like we have different Mountain West teams making it. I have Boise, you have UNLV. I'm fine with either. Honestly, I think it could go either way. Boise State did lose Ashton Jency. UNLV has always been solid. They were solid last year. So, yeah, Florida at 9 is that's definitely something. Um, I don't know what you see in them. I think they're historically a great team, a great college. They've always been good in football, but just the last couple years, I don't see that. I don't see that strength.
Well, I think what
Um,
I hate to cut you off here, but I think that Florida they just looked like a really well-rounded team at the end of last season. I think the quarterback play is going to improve. I think they have the most quarterback talent of anybody long term in college. Um, so I think, and especially playing some of an easier schedule. I know they play a couple tough teams, of course, being in the SEC, but I think honestly a remotely easy schedule gives them a chance to go and play in these playoffs.
okay, yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at it. I just think it's interesting. And then SMU third, which having SMU third wouldn't be that bad on its own, but saying that they are better than Clemson, I don't see how. Clemson is so established. They always run a clean football, but they always run a great clean football program. SMU, they're so inexperienced. Now, I will say they did hold up pretty well in the playoffs last year. I'll give you that. I was impressed by that. They didn't. I was expecting them to get absolutely torched, but it really wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? I was expecting like a 30, 40 point loss, but they kept it close. So I think that's a good indicator that they are going places. I just winning the ACC, that's going to be very, very tough. And it appears that after week 1, there's some ACC teams that we didn't think were going to be very good that might be very good. And then you have Texas at 2. Obviously, we have some very differing opinions on Texas. I think a lot of it might come down to our opinions on Arch Manning. You have Texas 2. I have them 8. You have them winning the SEC. I don't. And then we both do agree that Ohio State, they're the best team. They're going to be the number 1 seed. They're going to be very hard to beat, even in a very tough Big Ten conference. They have some tough games on their schedule. Like, this is a really tough schedule for Ohio State. If they go undefeated, they've earned it.
I think our disagreement on Texas being Arch Manning is correct, but I don't know what you don't see in Arch, to be honest with you. I think, and I don't say that as a knock on your opinion of him, but he has the arm talent. He he's typically smart with the football. Although he is young, he makes some prone mistakes, but he's smart with the football. He he's learned obviously from being a Manning. He has a lot coming with that last name. So I think, and he's just a humble guy who wants to learn and get better. So I don't see this cocky arrogance that some college quarterbacks carry. And I think that actually translates well when you get into October, you get to November, you need to win these gritty games to make sure you're going into the fight for a national championship. So I think that's important to have for a quarterback.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so my opinion on Arch Manning. I think it's about time that we get into our thoughts on week one. I think we should touch on the Texas Ohio State game, the biggest game
Elephant in
of
the
probably
room.
the season, biggest game we've seen in years. In terms of you have the number one seed, or the number one ranked team in Texas going against the national champions Ohio State, and obviously with me having Ohio State going undefeated, I had them winning that football game. I think them being number three, and they just won a national championship, and you can say, oh, they lost seniors. Everyone loses seniors. You know what I mean? Ohio State had a chip on their shoulder. I really believe that. I think that they took that personally, and they had Texas coming in with Arch Manning, who has never played a snap of football outside of Texas. Never. He's never been in an away game as a starter. That's a tough environment for Arch to be in. Ohio State, that they had a chip on their shoulder, and they wanted to show everyone that we're the national champions. We should be the number one team, not Texas. And Arch Manning, to me, he's not even a Heisman contender this year, in my opinion. He's a good quarterback, don't get me wrong, and I think he could end up being great in the NFL, as a matter of fact. But the expectations that are being put on Arch Manning already at this point in his career, playing just a few dozen snaps, to me that's too much, and it comes from obviously his last name. So a lot of people, critiquing Arch Manning for his performance this weekend. I think we need to pump the brakes on the Arch Manning stuff. He's basically a freshman out there. You know what I mean? It's his third start. So for him to go into Ohio State, into the horseshoe, the national, defending champions, that is going to be a tough game for him. I'm not shocked at all that he did not have a good game.
I wouldn't even say he had a bad game, honestly, by the standards of most quarterbacks in that situation. I think a stat that doesn't get brought up enough is that most of these quarterbacks who go perform well at college, go to the NFL, and perform well at the NFL level, which I should mention, um, they all struggle in their first start. Nobody comes out of the gates and just throwing 200 yards, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns. It's just not happening, especially against the top, team like Ohio State. I think you were expecting a lot of Texas and Arch Manning on that front. And even then, they kept it a one-score game. It was a 14-7 game. So what there isn't terribly much more you could have asked for in that type of game.
Yeah, defense kept him in it. That was one of the best defensive games I've seen. That was real. A lot of people probably aren't going to like it because it was low scoring. I thought the game was super thrilling. Seeing the back and forth, the failed tush push, all that was super entertaining. But it's a tough place for Arch Manning to be in, and the fact that he was the favorite to win the Heisman is one of the most ridiculous things I've seen. He could be the Heisman in 1 or 2 years. He's done nothing in college football so far to put him as the Heisman favorite. Nothing.
There's something you said that actually caught my attention there. You're talking about defense, right? I mean, both teams play great defense. Those teams scored more than 14 points in that game. There is a team that did not play great defense this past weekend, or week, I should say. I'm going to change gears a little bit here. UNC's game. So I know that's going to be another big topic of discussion. Bill Belichick,
Yeah.
first game as a UNC head coach. Rough. That was a rough game. I know you
Yes.
have some thoughts on that. How long has it been since a loss that big? What did you say it was?
7 years since North
Ooh.
Carolina has lost by 34 more points. So and they didn't lose to an SEC school. They didn't lose to a Big Ten school. They lost to TCU. To lose that much to a team that, let's face it, 90% of people thought they were going to beat is outrageous. And it's kind of funny because my opinion on Arch Manning, that people need to give him a break and need to sort of pump the brakes on the hype, is kind of the opposite with Bill Belichick. The fact that they just had their worst game in almost a decade, and it just so happens to fall in the same weekend that they get Bill Belichick, I think the reason they lost is it has something to do with Bill Belichick. I'm not sure if it's his coaching style. I'm not in the locker room. Maybe he's coaching them like professionals when he needs to be coaching them like the college kids that they are. I think that something's up there. That a loss like that doesn't just happen because it's North Carolina. I think it has something to do with Bill Belichick.
I tend to disagree though, because like if you think about it, he coaches similarly to Nick Saban, right? You think of Nick Saban, you think of one of the greatest college coaches, if not the greatest of all time, right? He coaches the same way Bill Belichick does to a degree. Um, and you saw how successful Alabama was all those years. So I tend to think that that would actually translate to UNC. And I know obviously first games coaching are a little bit rough, but I am going to pump the brakes on UNC being a warning sign, especially with Bill Belichick, because I think coaching at college compared to the NFL is a completely different thing, and you can see it in the other way around. We've seen coaches go to the NFL and just not be as good. Cliff Kingsbury comes to mind. I think of Matt Patricia. You mentioned him earlier. Um, we've seen some pretty bad coaches in the NFL that were good in college. Matt Rule, another one. Um, there's it's evidence. I'm curious how much that affects going from one to the other on the NFL side to college.
hmm So let me clarify. I'm not out on Bill Belichick. I think he and North Carolina could still have a great team this year and in the upcoming future. But I think I'm not one to overreact over 1 week, but I think this is a case where I think changes need to be made. I'm not saying fire Bill Belichick, but there needs to be a change in style or demeanor because a loss like that doesn't just happen coincidentally. It's a Bill Belichick, and we see new coaches come in all the time, and they don't get blown out that bad, so something was up there, and also something else really interesting 2 years ago when Deion Sanders was making his first coaching start with Colorado, guess who had to play them in week 1? TCU. And of course, they got beat. It was the year after they got destroyed in the national championship. 2 years later, who gets scheduled against Bill Belichick in his first start? TCU again. What do the schedule makers have against TCU? I think it actually put a chip on TCU's shoulder. I think they came in and said, there's a lot of hype around North Carolina. Rather than lose to the hype like we did a couple years ago, let's go in and let's just stifle it. And that's exactly what they did in a really impressive fashion.
I almost want to say, does that say more about UNC's future? Because you talk about Colorado, and we saw what happened with them. We saw how the stars they built with Travis Hunter and Shitter Sanders, who are going to the NFL this year. Does that make me have questions about who's going to step up at a UNC? I mean, we saw Drake May, he got drafted a couple of years ago, and he's looking like he might pan out in the NFL. So again, who's going to step up? Who's going to be that key player for UNC for them to rely on throughout the season? Obviously, with Bill Belichick being his first coaching year.
hmm Yeah, I think there's gonna be a quarterback change very soon. There's already a tight battle for the QB1 spot, and I think it's going to get even tighter after last night. Because we saw after breaking a leg the
Yeah,
year before, you
yeah.
know what I mean, come in and put together some good drives. So I think there's going to be some competition there. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to see how it plays. How it plays out. The last couple years of Bill Belichick's career in the NFL without Tom Brady were very poor, and so it led to a lot of questions of, okay, is it Brady or is it Belichick? Who made the Patriots dynasty click? And I think how North Carolina performs in the next couple years is going to add even more fuel to the fire in that conversation. I'm going to be very interested to see how it plays out.
We both know a couple Brady fans. I'm sure they're loving the Bill Belichick outcome right now. Um,
Mhm.
we talk about star players and stuff like that. I want to throw this to you. I want your opinions on this. Clemson versus LSU. Um, another low-scoring game. Didn't have too much happen in it entirely, but what do you make of something like that? I mean, LSU ends up holding out, getting the win. A lot of people had Clemson winning this weekend, so that's a big loss for them to take this early in the year. They can't really afford many more. So, I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it kind of fits with the theme of a lot of the big games this weekend. That it was defense. You know what I mean? It was a big defensive showdown, and it's a big statement game for LSU because when you're an SEC team, you cannot afford to lose games to teams outside your conference. Clemson's a great team, but when you're playing an ACC team, LSU has so many SEC teams to beat. They have to beat Clemson. You know what I mean? It's a must-win game if they want to make the playoffs. And so for them to go in and win that game, I think was huge. And killer for Clemson. It's not a season ender because they are in a weaker conference. You know what I mean? They can win the conference with one or two losses, but it's not a good look. That's for sure. It's definitely not a good look. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think LSU is trying their hardest to not be in the situation they've been in for what feels like 5 years now, right? Ever since Joe Burrow and Justin Jefferson left, and after they won that national championship, it feels like LSU's been in limbo. They're not bad enough where they are out of contention entirely from the playoffs. Every single year, we have the same discussion about LSU. One win away, one more win would have put them in, right? Every year. Even last year, look at it. LSU wins one more game, they're probably in the conversation, and they probably get a nod, to be honest with you. Because we know the committee likes LSU,
Oh
but
yeah,
they can't. An 8-4 record doesn't justify being in the playoffs. Unfortunately,
absolutely
you
not.
have to win more games, and I think LSU's finally trying to understand that and making the adjustments they need to. Beating Clemson is huge, huge game for them. As much as it is it sucks for Clemson. They can come back from that. LSU losing that game, that would have been a really, really tough task.
Yep. Yeah, because like I said earlier, if you're an SEC team, you cannot lose to out of conference teams. Speaking of losing to outer conference teams, the disaster class of the weekend, Alabama drops a game in week one. What is up with that?
Uh, man, we both had Alabama going to the playoffs. We
Yeah.
both had FSU. We didn't mention them. Being terrible. I'll be put it
Yeah.
bluntly. We
Yeah.
neither of us thought FSU would be very good. Clearly, people who in the committee didn't either because they were not ranked.
Yeah.
Alabama just dropped a game, and it wasn't like a close game, right? Like I know the box score says 31-17. It really wasn't as close of a game as they're making it seem. That game was in FSU's control the entire time, honestly. It was just a disaster. I honestly don't know what happened there. But I think you talk about Bill Belichick with coaching earlier, maybe a change in just demeanor, whatever you want to call it. I think that needs to happen for Alabama because now this is the second year without Saban, and last year they barely snuck in. It felt like they snuck into the playoffs. That's or no, they didn't make it, right? Sorry, they didn't
No,
even
they
make
did
it.
not.
Okay, correct. Yes, my fault. So yes, this is again another situation where they cannot afford. They can't afford to miss the playoffs. And losing a game to FSU, an unranked team, not even in your own conference, the ACC at that, that's a huge loss. And I don't know if they can afford another loss the entire year if they want to be able to make it to the conference.
No. For me, looking at Alabama's season, I think it is a season ender. Honestly, I don't think there is a way you recover from that loss. Other, you know, if they do recover, it's going to be because they went out. You know what I mean? A loss. Now, the good news is, and I've noticed this with the committee, there is so much recency bias. If there's any week that you can get away with losing to FSU, it'll be week one. So if Alabama wins out, they could get back in the playoffs. But for me, this is a season ender. And I think, we're talking about coaching. I think losing Saban might end up being a lot more massive than we thought. Obviously, last year, they were still pretty good. They didn't fall off a cliff, like some are suspecting they might do now this year. Just you wonder again, going back to we were kind of talking about was it Belichick or Brady? Now we have to have the conversation of was Alabama good or was Nick Saban good? And I think the next couple years we're really going to see, some question marks about that. And another thing is Alabama went outside of school to hire a head coach. You know what I mean? I almost wonder if that was a mistake. Maybe they should have hired someone from Saban's staff to step up and take
Or a
over.
former staff member before, even somebody like
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
I mean, a lot of question marks around Alabama, right? But
Yeah.
I think it's a fixable situation, but I think a fixable situation entails they have to beat all of their SEC opponents, every single one.
Hmm.
They can't afford to lose any of them.
No. No.
Um, there's one more college game I really quickly wanted to hit on. We don't have to stay on it too long, but Miami Notre Dame. So Miami took a huge lead early, or no, excuse me, or no, I might be misspeaking here. Let me fact check on this game or before I say something that is incorrect. Um, Miami versus Notre Dame. Miami had the lead early, and let's be blunt here. Me and you both agreed that losing Cam Ward would be huge, right? We thought that was
Yeah.
the team. We were wrong. We were wrong because Notre Dame proved in that second half of that game when they started making that huge comeback that they're still a competent and competitive team when it comes to the college playoffs. Miami
Hmm.
might have just proved that Cam Ward wasn't holding up that banner, and instead it was a team of players that was making that team successful.
Yes.
I think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah. Yeah. I think um, that was a really thrilling game. That was really fun to watch. Um, and I just, if you're an independent school and you're losing a game already, I think Notre Dame's going to be in a very tough position. Notre Dame, I'm going to go ahead and say it, this could be a hot take. Notre Dame's the most overrated team in college football, I think. Just,
Ooh.
and I don't necessarily mean this year, but on a year-to-year basis, they get so much more credit than they deserve. I mean, it's incredible. I'd have to see the betting odds, but I'd have to imagine that in the national championship last year, they were way closer in the betting odds than they should have been to Ohio State. Notre Dame was never going to win that game. Notre Dame is. Now, I love the coach. I love the atmosphere that they're building there. But that, it's an independent school. They're not beating up on SEC teams or Big Ten teams. So I feel like they really do get overrated every year.
I mean, yeah, that's it. Just feels like Notre Dame is kind of waiting for something that isn't going to happen, which is they finally break through, break all of these old habits that they've been fighting off, and just finally go through and win a national championship, which they were close to doing last year. Um, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit here. I mean, well, let's look ahead before we move on. But week two, there's a couple games worth mentioning here. A lot of these top schools that you're probably thinking of don't end up playing a real tough opponent this week. I mean, upsets happen, but me and you can probably both agree on this part. There's not going to be some crazy upset this week, correct?
Yeah.
Just looking at ahead.
Yeah. I mean, we could be wrong. Um, you know, there's always a chance for an upset. Can we put Oregon on upset alert? Because they got to go against Mike Gundy's Oklahoma State, and I
Yeah,
think that could be very.
we're not putting them on upset alert. I think you're crazy if you think that that's a
Um,
realistic thing.
no, no, no. I will say though, I will put an upset alert on the Iowa State game. Um, I think Iowa's a really solid team. Iowa State, obviously they've usually been better, but I think that could be a very competitive game. But I think the game of the week is probably going to end up being the Michigan and Oklahoma matchup. It's two teams that are on the outside looking in when we look at the playoffs. I have Michigan in my playoffs. You don't. Neither of us have Oklahoma in our playoffs. And most people would probably not have either of them either. You know what I mean? I think I'm a little higher on Michigan than a lot of people would be because I just think they run us a very solid program. But this game is huge. Whoever loses it, their playoff chances are going to take a huge dip. And whoever wins it is going to pull off a really big statement game. So yeah, I'm going to be very interested to see how that game goes. And as for who I think is going to win it, give me Michigan to win that game. I'm going to stick to my guns on having them making the playoffs. I just think they're a little better than Oklahoma, but this is a must-win game for Oklahoma. They have a much harder schedule than Michigan's going to have, playing all those SEC teams. So Oklahoma needs to win this game.
I'm going to have to agree that I think Michigan's going to come out on top, although Oklahoma will play them a lot closer than some people think. Um, I
Oh
think
yeah, it'll be a close game,
I
no
think
doubt.
Michigan is going to take the nod, and this will help aid their case to be one of the 12 teams that ends up getting to fight for a national championship later in the season. I also want to quickly just give my prediction on Iowa State. As much as I think Iowa could upset Iowa State, I'm gonna stick safe and say Iowa State, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that that game could be a field goal game. So
Oh yeah, it's going to be a low-scoring affair for sure. I do
nine
have
to
Iowa
six.
State winning
You
that as well.
want to say 9-6? What do you want to give that?
I thought you said 5-6.
No, 9-6
Bro, we got a fact check now. The last time someone scored 5 points in a game.
in a college game. Oh, it's been a while.
Yeah,
It's been a long time.
I bet Iowa was involved in the game. I'll,
Yeah,
I'll, I'll bet money they were involved.
we'll have to fact check that off camera.
Yeah.
Um, I know we didn't touch on this. We meant to college picks playoff wise. Um, I'm just gonna. I mean, you'll see them here as they pop up. I'll say mine real quick. I think Ohio State versus Texas is just inevitable. I know we saw them play this week. I think it'll be a very different game when we get to January. Um, I know I'm kind of speeding through. I'll dissect this more, I'm sure, as we get closer to the playoffs itself. But just wanted to mention in here that I think that that game is going to be a repeat game. I think we will see it again, and I think though the same result will occur, although it'll be a much higher scoring game.
So for my college football playoff, I have a lot of wild stuff happening. I think it's going to be a crazy year, and I don't think the best teams are necessarily going to be the ones we see in the national championship game. I have Michigan going on a tear. I have them taking out Penn State in round one, Ohio State in round two, which I think that's going to be a revenge game because I think Ohio State is finally going to get them in the regular season, and then Michigan's going to get their payback in the playoffs. But ultimately, I Michigan's they're just not good enough to go all the way. So I see Georgia knocking them out, and I also see Oregon making the national championship game as well. So I have a Georgia Oregon natty, and I see Georgia taking the cake. I just think last year I felt that Georgia, along with Ohio State, were the two best teams. I just think Georgia continued to shoot themselves in the foot over and over and over again. And their biggest enemy was themselves. I think this year they're going to clean that up, and they're going to win the national championship.
I have a lot of thoughts on that, but I will hold them for another day.
Yeah,
This
that
week's,
Michigan pick is wild. I would not even. Yeah,
I'm gonna hold my thoughts on that. We will
yeah.
talk about that in the future. So, Parker, we talked a lot about college, but the NFL, right? It's everybody's favorite part of football, for most
Yeah.
people in
Who doesn't
America.
love the NFL?
Everybody loves the NFL. So we wanted to give our expertise opinions on that too, just like we did with college. Um, so you know what? I let you start off with college. I will take the reins here on the NFL side. Before I do, is there anything specifically crazy that you think I may have predicted or not?
Look, I know you're a big Kyler Murray believer. You might be the biggest Kyler Murray believer I've seen, and you're not even a Cardinals fan. That's the wildest part. I think you have the Cardinals higher than they probably should be. I'm going to predict that. Other than that, I'm not sure. I'm interested to see what you got.
Well, I'm not gonna make you wait. I'm just gonna show you. So why don't we throw that up there? But while that's happening, uh, you know, you're right. I do have Arizona high. I think they're a competent team in a conference that is extremely weak, quite frankly. Um, I think that the NFC lacks mid-end talent, and I think a lower-end team can sneak through because of that. Um, I think that Arizona is one of the best teams, well-rounded wise, outside of the front four. So, like, behind those front four teams, I think they're the most well-rounded, honestly. Um, I'm also huge on the fact that I think Philadelphia is not winning that division. The trend will continue for what, 22nd year? Fact check me on that, but
It's a long time.
long, long time.
23, 24 years. I don't have the exact number. More than 2 decades.
Been more than 2 decades, so um, that's big for the NFC East. I think Washington's taking that. I don't think there's much of a contest for the NFC North, which I know you're a little surprised about. I'm sure you might be like most people. You think that another NFC North team should be on that list, but I should clarify these predictions were made before Micah Parsons got traded to Green Bay, so we may have Green Bay a little lower than we anticipated. But yeah, I think that generally my predictions are pretty concrete. I know there's not many new teams in there. I think Seattle's just they're gonna do the same thing they do every year. I mean Tampa Bay they win a pretty easy division, and I think that the Rams are again just the best team in the West.
Yeah. So I think the thing that I have the biggest problem with on here is okay. I can understand maybe having the Eagles not win the division, but having the Eagles almost miss the playoffs, you literally have them in on a tiebreaker. I don't see that happening. The Eagles have not just one of the best teams. They have the best team, the best roster in the NFL. They're the most. You talk about well-rounded. You cannot come up with a more well-rounded team than what the Philadelphia Eagles have going for them.
But they lost half their defense. Who's going to play defense for them? They don't have any
All
defensive
the
backs.
rookies that they drafted,
But they're going to be good first year.
they were already good last year.
But the
They have two of
rookies.
the best DBs in football already, and Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean.
Who else is playing defense for them? They don't have two corners on the field.
They have
They have no
good.
depth. They have no defensive depth anymore. They lost half of their players.
Who did they lose?
For starters, they lost. Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name now.
Yeah,
But
they lost old dudes.
yeah, but old dudes who played with value. They had value for their team. They have the defensive value.
Some value.
Leadership is important, especially in a locker room that's led by Nick Sirianni, who is known for being a little bit of a hothead. You need to have veterans on that team. Not having them is a big kicker. I think that's actually going to come back to bite them.
Have Zach Vaughn at linebacker.
I mean,
he's been the leader of that defense. They
I
didn't
I,
lose him.
I
If they
won't.
lost him, I would be with you, but they re-signed him.
I will credit that they did bring him back. He is a big defensive piece for them. He's filling a gap that otherwise desperately needs to be filled by that team. But I don't know. I don't trust it. That defense doesn't enthrall me, and the offense, Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's a great quarterback, dare I say, but he's not an elite quarterback. He's not on that top rank, and him not being there, I also means that he has to trust on his receivers a little bit, trust on his run game. Saquon, I mean, he's coming off a great year, no doubt about it. Honestly, arguably the best player in football.
He
But
was the list came out today, by the way. He's the number
yes,
one player in the NFL
yes, the list did
according to
come
the
out.
polls.
So, I mean, great value player Saquon is, but I don't trust that offense. I don't trust the defense. The team itself is too talented for the miss, but I don't trust them consistently.
They have the best offense in the NFL, and I don't know if it's particularly close. You have Jalen Hurts, a quarterback who's good.
I don't
You
think
have the
so.
best running back. You have the best running back in the NFL in Saquon. You have the best offensive line in the NFL with 5 great starters, some young. You have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith as receivers, who A.J. Brown's a top 5 receiver and Devontae Smith's in the 10 to 20 range. So and you have one of the best tight ends in football. So I think just everything is there's not a weakness
No,
in
no,
the
there's so
offense.
many wrong things wrong with that.
What?
Dallas Goedert, for starters, is not one of the top tight ends in football. He has not had a good
Yes, he
year since
is.
2022 when they
He
went to the Super Bowl the first time against the Chiefs. The offensive line, I mean, is great. I won't discount that. Again, I made my concerns about Jalen Hurts. I don't trust him down the field. I don't trust him as a consistent passer. I think they rely on the run game too much. I think that's an overload on Saquon, who is known for having injuries. I think a receiving core that is reliant on A.J. Brown more than you think it is, because he is such a physical attraction that it only is the reason that Devontae Smith gets open, because he doesn't have the speed as small as he is. I think that those are concerns to have, and I think that teams adapting defenses trying to beat the Super Bowl champs is going to come back to bite them.
So a couple things before we move on from Philly. Dallas Goedert's stats going down is not just him; it's all the tight ends in football. Tight ends in 2022 and 2023, tight ends were the strength of the NFL. You needed to have a good tight end to be good. Defenses have adjusted, and now everyone's numbers have gone down. The only guy who's really been super impressive at tight end's been obviously Brock Bowers last year. And then I look at you mentioned the receivers. They did not have a good pass game last year, and yet they dominated their way to a Super Bowl. They don't have to have an elite pass game. They just have to have an average pass game, and then they have the run game to take over.
I mean, the Eagles also, you got to remember, yes, they have a great pass game that has been proven to be successful, but the NFL, as you said, evolves. Like you talk about the tight ends evolving, that goes the same logic for the running backs, the same logic for the receivers, same logic for quarterbacks even. We see more dual threats nowadays than ever. So again, I just have a hard time seeing the Eagles continuing that streak of dominance they've had the past couple of years and again, I think that's a bit of a question mark to coaching, considering that that talent has been there for 3 years and they've only capitalized to make one Super Bowl win. So we'll have to see how that plays out, but I'm sure you have more things to comment on.
So the Nick Sirianni slander. I used to be a Nick Sirianni hater. I will admit, when they were really bad at the beginning of last year, like losing to the Browns, I was like, Sirianni's the issue. Nick Sirianni has one of the best winning percentages of any head coach, and he's made the Super Bowl 2 times already in his third or fourth year, I believe. 4 years, 2 Super Bowls. That's incredible. I don't think he's. I don't have a worry about Sirianni anymore. Um, Now, if there is something that does go against the Eagles, it would be the fact that Saquon had a historical season last year. The odds are he's not going to have that good of a year, even if he rushes for 1,500 yards and still has a great year, just not a historic year. You could see the Eagles dropping a couple games that they would not have last year. So I think that does play against the Eagles, but everything else I'm not worried about.
The last thing I'll touch on before we continue to move along here with the predictions is that remember this game. Divisional round last year, they played the Rams. Remember what happened. If Saquon doesn't get through these big break runs, the Rams win that game. So it's worth keeping that in mind too. Um, Moving further along though, I mean, yeah, I think the rest of my NFC, at least there, well, we'll pop that up on the stream, my 9 through 16. Nothing too crazy to comment on. I think that's mostly consensus. A lot of teams in that like 10 to 9 win area. I will touch real quickly on the Vikings. I know a lot of people are high on that team. I think I have very, very big questions around JJ McCarthy. I question his ability um, to continue to perform like he did at Michigan, especially at the NFL level, with definitely different coaching. So I have question marks there. And before making this the Packers as well, I want to mention that I think that team was just lacking a big star player, which they now have. So
Yeah.
um, that kind of makes me pick towards not having them in beforehand. But
Hmm.
I'll send it over to you. What do you got for your NFC?
Yeah. So looking at my NFC bracket, um, I feel like it's very similar to last year. We have the Eagles and the Lions as the top 2 seeds. I have the Eagles getting the 1 seed, something that if Jalen Hurts didn't get hurt in that Commanders game last year, the Eagles probably get the 1 seed last year. I have the 49ers at 3. Of all my predictions, this is the one I'm least sure on. The 49ers last year, we talk about the Lions not being healthy. The 49ers had just as much injury issues as they did. And I don't see them having a year like that again where they have so many injuries. Now, obviously, they did lose a lot of great players on the defense. I love Hufanga, but I think that that's something that they have a great coach. Um, and the 49ers they're again one of those teams that are always so solid. They're just one of the best overall franchises. This I think that losing, yes, they are. Yes, they
No,
are.
no, no.
Yes, they are.
This team has been inconsistent since 2010.
You know, okay, but their highs are really high. They made the Super
And
Bowl
their
a
lows
lot
are
of
low.
times. No, they're not.
Their lows they went like 2 and 14 in 2016.
Yeah, that was because of Colin Kaepernick.
Whatever
That's
the
what I'll.
reason may be, but
But
again, that was what I was just about to tell you. Inconsistent quarterback play, subpar quarterback play, quarterbacks that aren't at the level of the other quarterbacks in the league, even though they have a talented roster around them.
hey, I definitely, if there's anyone to talk to about not trusting Purdy, I'm not a Purdy believer.
But you have them
The
getting third in the division, or winning the division, getting third in the conference.
I do have them because they've done it the past 6 years, except last year when they were really hurt. I have a hard time seeing that team just falling off a cliff. And here's another thing. I don't think they're a 12-win team. I don't think they're a 12-win caliber team. But when you give them as easy of a schedule as they had, they could be an 8 or 9 win caliber team. And as I have in my predictions, have them win 12 games. If you would ask me before making my predictions, how many wins do the 49ers get? I would have said 8 or 9. But you look at their schedule, it it gets them a lot more victories because they don't play a lot of people. So I have them third. I also have Tampa Bay in fourth. They're in a very easy division. You can basically
I,
bank on them
I'm gonna
getting that.
stop you. I'm gonna stop you here. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm not letting you skip past this 49ers comment. That team lost Dre Greenlaw. They lost. I believe they
Fonga
lost. Yes.
mentioned, yeah.
They also lost another corner. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but they lost some key pieces on that defense, and I think that's a big hit when it comes to talking about star power. Right? We talk about carrying superstar teams carrying average to a little bit above average quarterbacks, right? I think that has to be said. That has to be mentioned. That defense, which was historically great for a couple of years, lost big pieces on it. And not just that. Offensively, I know he was slowing down a little bit, but still losing Debo Samuel, that's a big thing. Christian McCaffrey's health, that's a big thing, a huge thing. When he's healthy, that team is great. When he's not, that team looks very inconsistent. George Kittle's getting older. How much longer is this team going to be competitive truly?
That's the thing. When the 49ers have Christian McCaffrey, their winning percentage is in the 70s. They have a great winning percentage. If he stays healthy, my prediction will be about where they come out to be. If he's not healthy, though, they're going to be around where they were last year. So I do have concerns about the 49ers, but I am going to stick to my guns and have them at the 3 seed. It's the one that I'm least sure about of all these, just because I don't think they're a 12-win team, but
I,
they have such an easy schedule.
I just struggle seeing a world where that team, even with McCaffrey, wins 12 games because I just think that they lost pieces defensively.
But yeah, they lost pieces, but they still have they still have great personnel.
I mean,
They
you're
they signed all their guys like Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Lenore. They still have great pieces. Hufanga, the reason they got rid of him is because he couldn't stay healthy. Dre Greenlaw, that's a really bad loss. I think Greenlaw and Hufanga are both great players, but the health is the concern with those players. You know what I mean? And now they're not there, so I see that team being a lot healthier.
I'll let you finish your wild card picks. Who else?
All right. So wild card, I have the Packers, which if I was able to redo this, I would have them competing for the 1 seed because now they have Micah Parsons. But even before Parsons, I had them being the 5 seed, and then I have the Rams being the 6 seed, and the Commanders being the 7 seed. Which means I don't think we get a new division winner in the NFC East. I think we finally get a repeat for the first time in over 20 years. The Commanders last year, they won a lot of one-score games. They were not a powerhouse. You know what I mean? Now they did get better over the offseason. But as we saw with CJ Stroud, that sophomore slump can be tough sometimes. So I have some concerns about the Commanders. My first team out, the Seattle Seahawks, with 11 wins. Every year, I don't know how they do it. Every year, they manage to miss the playoffs with a winning record. 2 years ago, it was 9 wins. Last year, it was 10 wins. Now I have them winning 11 games and missing the playoffs, which is just the way the schedule kind of came out. I think they're going to have a really good team, but in tiebreakers, they're going to miss out. I have the Vikings and the Bears both having losing records at 8 and 9. I have concerns with the Vikings with JJ McCarthy and the Bears. How many good off seasons
King of the
are they
off
going to
season,
have?
who won the off season. You're right. You guys
Yeah,
won the off
they're
season.
3-time off-season champions, and yet they do nothing in the regular season. So for me, I can't put the Bears in the playoffs until I see something. Now, I love Caleb Williams. I think he had a good year last year. Honestly, I think he had one of the best years that a Bears quarterback has ever had as a rookie. So I think that's really
Well,
impressive. I think he's only
low
going to be
bar.
better this year. It is a low bar, but it's still a fact, which is pretty crazy.
I have to say, I don't actually hate the rest of your take for the most part, except one thing. I know that obviously don't see eye to eye on the Eagles, but I think that also part of my prediction is because I see so much with the Commanders, and I know it's easy to fall into that hype, right? Like, wow, that team was electrifying. They just made an NFC Championship game. I mean, what rookie does that, really? But I think you have to keep in mind this. The Texans, they added pieces defensively. When I know they added Stephon Diggs technically, but generally they added defensive pieces last year, right? Trying to get their defense to keep up so they didn't have to score points. The Commanders didn't do that. The Commanders are balling out on offense. They re-signed McLaurin, which was a need. I'm glad they did that. Again, they picked up Debo Samuel. They got rid of Brian Robinson, I believe. So they're really focusing on getting Jade Daniels to run and pass the ball, which I know historically RG3 that could be a downside. But I also think with Jaden Daniels, he is a smart runner. He doesn't run just to run. He knows when he's poised. He doesn't need pressure in his face to then run. He knows if it's right or if it's wrong, or just to take the sack. He knows. He's a very confident and um, when you watch him play, he looks like he's relaxed on the field. Most quarterbacks are like tense, their shoulders up. Jaden Daniels is like almost standing there, which is so different than anything else we see in the league. I think that's so hard to come by that it honestly makes that team extremely dangerous because he just doesn't feel pressure.
Yeah, I agree. I think he looks really good last year. But you talk about those, beefing up the offense. That was one of the biggest problems I had with the Commanders. They spent so much money on the offense that they didn't even address their biggest need, which is the defense. They did not have a good defense last year, and so I think neglecting that and just signing more to the offense, signing people like Debo, I just I was a little skeptical on that. I didn't necessarily like that, so that's why I still haven't making the playoffs though. I have them actually winning more games than they won last year, but I don't think they take like a huge step up like everyone thinks. I don't think they'll be Super Bowl contenders this year.
The comment I'll make to that is that let's look at just real quickly for comparison. Let's look at the two teams that made big swings at one side or the other last offseason. Like not this current one, but the one before. The Cincinnati Bengals all out on offense. The Houston Texans tried to get defense to even it out. Although the Texans did make the playoffs, right? That team looked stuck for like 8 weeks. Like they just there was no motion. There was no flow. The game looked soft. They didn't have. They were missing something. While yes, the Bengals were horrific on defense. Probably one of the three worst in the league. They had consistent scoring offense that if they probably didn't play in the AFC, especially in the North, would have made the playoffs, point blank. And the Commanders get to play the Giants and Cowboys twice a year, which is a different fact, which I think is worth noting. And Joe Burrow, or excuse me, Jaden Daniels has the running ability that Joe Burrow does not. So I think that's another factor too to keep in mind.
All right, I guess we're just gonna have to disagree on that. I think they needed to address the defense more. But so yeah, those are my predictions. The New York Giants, I have them getting the number one pick. Of all the teams that I have opinions on, we made these predictions a couple weeks ago. I don't believe that anymore. That they'll be the number one. That they'll get the number one pick. I think they're going to be a little better than that. My opinion on them has changed because the defense has great personnel. You know what I mean? You obviously have Dexter Lawrence, one of, if not the best interior defensive lineman. You just have, and obviously, there's a lot of hype around the quarterback situation. Whether you look at
Jackson
Russell
Dart.
Wilson, Jackson Dart, Jameis Winston, whoever you want to look at as the starter, there's a lot happening there. So I would say the Giants are going to be a little better than that, but I have them as the number one pick. I think the Saints are going to be awful, and the Dallas Cowboys. I have them winning 3 games this year. I picked this when it's Micah Parsons. Um, and so luckily, if they had re-signed Parsons, that pick would have been destroyed. But I could see them. If Dak gets hurt, they're done. They're winning. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. They have here's a stat that I've been hearing a lot of, and I love this stat. When Micah Parsons is on the football field for the Dallas Cowboys, number one defense in EPA. When he's off the field, worst defense,
Wow.
32nd in
Wow.
EPA. Losing him is going to kill that defense. So it's just going to come down to whether Dak stays healthy.
That's a huge swing. That's like literally from top to bottom.
Yeah,
Um,
I couldn't believe that when I heard it the first time. This is gonna kill them losing Parsons.
just shows how much the Packers won that trade.
Yeah.
Uh, I have plenty of thoughts on the NFC, but probably even more on the AFC, which is why we're gonna move over that direction. Um, I mean, here I'll throw it up on the screen for everybody to look at it. But my AFC picks, I think they're pretty consensus at the very top, right? I mean, everybody thinks Kansas City will be good. Anybody that doesn't think Kansas City's winning the division, you're lying to yourself. I'm sorry. I think that Buffalo, again, the East, although I didn't have them uh, as excuse me, although I didn't have Buffalo personally um being better than Kansas City this year, I think that they are a competitor for them. I think that that team is very well rounded. I think Baltimore, again, another team that um, they are very much the same. They didn't change much from last season. Again, another team that can compete with Kansas City. And again, I don't think this changed with Houston because I just think there's no team in that division consistent and good enough to beat them, to knock them off that pedestal, no matter how bad they do. What's their closest competition? Jacksonville, probably, right?
Yeah, I would
So
say so.
we live in that boat as to division winners. I think my wild cards are where we might disagree a little bit here. Um, I think we both had the same. I'm not 100% sure. I think we both had the same on Cincinnati, right?
Well, we
Or
the
not.
records are a little different.
Records are a
I
little
have them
different.
winning you
We'll
don't
we'll
have
get
them
to
winning
we'll
the
get to
division.
that. We'll get to
Yeah.
that. But we both had Cincinnati making it. I think it was just a change from last year, which is proof to my Washington point about them going in on offense. We both think that an offensive heavy team can make it. I won't spoil the rest of your picks, but I wanted to say that. Denver, I think, again, another consistent team from last season that really hasn't changed. And the Chargers, again, another team offensively that hasn't changed and has probably gotten a little bit better on defense. I think there's not much of a change for the playoffs because I don't think there's many teams that got better or worse.
Mhm. So, um, I don't disagree with much that you have. I do have some concerns about a couple of these teams, um, but ultimately we have very similar brackets. I think that I think that the I would say the Jets are probably a little too high on your list. I don't see them winning 9 games. That's I think that's about the only thing here that I really heavily disagree with.
We'll show the 9 to 16 so everyone can see what he's talking about. So yeah, I mean, I just think the Jets are gonna be really, really good this year. I don't. It's a gut feeling, right? There's no evidence, especially considering it's a new team, different quarterback than last year. Um, they've made changes personnel wise. Aaron Glenn's the new head coach over there. He was the Lions defensive coordinator. I have trusted that defense with a good defensive coordinator mind. So I think all those things being said, I'm going to lean the direction that the Jets will be good. Although I don't have them in, they're like a game away. They're a piece away, honestly. If you were to ask me.
hmm Um, and back to your playoff picture. Um, I think it's interesting how you have every division winner repeating. You have the Chiefs
Third year in a
repeating,
row.
the
Not even the
Ravens
second,
repeating.
third.
What?
I'm saying not even the second year. It's the third year in a row. They won
Really?
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Oh my
23,
gosh, I
24,
didn't even think
24,
about that.
25, 25, 26.
It is interesting how the AFC is sort of a carbon copy year after year after year. Um,
But every year feels
Last
different.
year, what?
But every year feels different.
Kind of. I mean,
Like when you
if
get to playoff time.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. It feels like we get the same results where it's just like either the Bills or the Ravens mount a charge in the AFC Championship, but neither get the win against the Chiefs. And then you have teams like the Texans, which are just kind of there that they'll win a playoff game, but they won't be contending much after that. But yeah, I think it is interesting how, and along with that, you have seven of these seven teams, six of them were playoff teams last year. Your only difference is you have the Bengals instead of the Steelers.
Which I
So
think most people do not have Pittsburgh doing much this offseason. Although, don't worry, guys, they are still going with their winning record, 9-8. So, any
yeah,
Pittsburgh fans who hate that, I know a few. Don't worry, it's not changing. But I'll throw it to you. I mean, we looked at my picks. There's nothing too crazy on the back end of mine. I think there's a little more to talk about on your side. So, why don't we
yeah.
go over to you?
All right. Number one seed in the AFC is going to be the Buffalo Bills. I have them going 14-3. They have a very easy division. You got to play the Jets and the Dolphins twice a year. Easy money. I have the Chiefs being the second seed. Um, they are the complete opposite of the Bills. They have a very tough division around them. And so, although the Chiefs may be a better football team than the Bills, they do have a harder schedule. So, I think that they're going to lose out on that one seed because of that.
You
I
pull
have the
some black
Bengals as a
magic.
3 seed. I have them winning the division, which is really huge for them because of how bad their defense was last year. I don't see their defense being historically bad like that again. Um, it's kind of interesting because the defense was historically bad and the offense was historically good.
But what's
So
crazy to
one of
me,
them is going to change. We just don't know which one. I
what's
think the defense gets better.
what's crazy to me though is that you're having them get better, but I don't know what pieces they added for that defense to get better. Like if
Yeah,
that's your
they
reasoning for them winning the division.
well, my reasoning for them winning the division is something I'm going to get into a little bit later. But I just I don't see very rarely do you see a team 2 years in a row have that bad of a defense. You know what I mean? Usually it just gets better. You know what I mean? And they lost a lot of one score games last year, a lot of circumstantial losses, and so I just don't see. If they flip even one of those games, they make the playoffs. Um,
One of
so
the
I
Baltimore games.
yeah, literally. It comes down to 2 point conversions sometimes. A 2 point conversion decided whether they were in or out of the playoffs. But so yeah, I have the Bengals and Texans being the 4 seed. You know, that's everyone has them being the 4 seed. I have the Chargers in the wild card, and then I have the Ravens at 11-6. Their schedule is sneaky tough. It's sneaky tough, and considering that they usually drop a game to the Browns, you there's like a guaranteed loss. They will lose one game to the Browns. It happens every year. So they have a tough schedule. They have one of those guaranteed losses. Um, so I think the Ravens were actually before the playoffs started last year. They were my Super Bowl pick because they had figured out the defense. They had gotten it to rally around and improve from one of the worst in the first half of the season to one of the best. But their schedule just doesn't play out well for them. So I think they are an 11-6 team, but they're a really good 11-6 team.
I
Like
think you're
if they had an
crazy.
easier schedule, they'd be fighting for the 1 seed.
I think you're crazy for that because I don't see a world where the least talented Browns team they've had since that 0-16 team is going to manage to beat Baltimore Ravens. I know that it's the trend every year, it's a division rival
You
and
think
stuff
it's the
like that.
least? Why would it be the least talented?
The least talented Browns team since that 0-16 team?
Yeah, why do you think that?
I think that there's nothing on offense at all to show for it. Because at least when they had those horrible years at the end of the 2010s, they had Nick Chubb. There was a bright spot. They had the young quarterback Baker Mayfield. There was a bright spot there. I know they have Shitter Sanders, but there's a lot of question marks surrounding him. He's not even a starter. Joe Flacco is the current starter. I don't trust the offensive line. I think it's gotten worse over the years. I think David Njoku is one of the most overrated tight ends in the league, which I know is a bit of a hot take. I think that Jerry Jeudy is the only receiver on that team worth mentioning, and I think their defense is carried by Myles Garrett. I don't think that anything about that defense besides him screams top 10 defense to me.
Denzel Ward.
Yeah, but he's always hurt.
And then they have a good they have that good
Oh,
linebacker, man.
JOK,
Yeah, JOK.
he's good,
Um,
but he just doesn't move the defense. Like Myles Garrett is a defensive mover. Any defense he goes to, that defense is five rankings
well,
better.
obviously, if we're comparing Miles Garrett and Jeremiah Usakormo, there's a difference there, but I think they're all great players. I don't see why. I don't think this Browns team got worse. I think if anything, they have more firepower now with drafting Shador, um, and drafting Dylan Gabriel. Like they have more upside
They
offensively.
have more future, I'd say. I don't know if they have more upside. Like I think this season is going to be a rough year,
Okay, well,
frankly.
here's something that I think is if there's anything to be excited about for Browns fans, here it is. The last 2 years, we've seen a rookie quarterback come in and instantly turn a bottom five team into a playoff team. Who's it going to be this year? Most people think it's Cam Ward. Could be Shador. Who knows? We'll see.
I
Going
don't
to be
think
very interesting.
I just refuse to believe that. I don't think so.
I don't believe it either. Obviously, I have them. What do I have them? I have them winning
Well, yeah, we'll
5 games.
show
So
you the
yeah,
bottom
I don't
half
see
of your graphic, but or actually, no, we won't show that because I want to talk about pick that you were about to get to. I'm not even gonna let you say it. I'm gonna say it for you. The New England Patriots.
Yep.
There
Yep.
are many factors that I'm sure went into that pick, and I'm not even gonna critique most of that team because I know what Drake May is capable of. I saw him in college. I know what the defense is capable of. It's good when it's healthy. I question the offensive line and I question the receivers. You can't sit here and tell me that 2-year-old Stephon Diggs is going to be the receiving saving grace for Drake May. No, he's not.
I don't think so. No, that's not why I picked them.
But I'm curious. I'll let you say your piece. Why the Patriots?
So the reason I picked them is they've been having consistently some of the best draft classes over the last couple of years. They had another good draft class this year. They brought in a great rookie receiver that they have a lot of confidence in. I think Drake May is going to get better. I think, and another thing is if the defense is healthier, which I think it is, if they have guys like Christian Barmore, that defense is gonna be so tough, which is gonna raise the whole team up. You already have a great secondary with they still have Duggar, right? They have Gonzo. They have great personnel on that team. I like what I see out of the defense, and so if the offense gets even a little better, they're contending for the playoffs, and I think their schedule comes out pretty favorably as well.
I just think that
So
it's
yeah, I
ins
like the team. I
but
have
I
them winning
think
9. I don't think they're good like
over Denver,
a playoff. They're not going to win a playoff game, but they're going to win 9 games and make the
but
playoffs.
over Denver, part
Yes,
of
over
part,
Denver.
part of me feels like you made that pick just because you don't want to have a repeat playoffs. Honestly, I think there's no like I don't think that there is a team that you didn't name already in the front and six that's better than Denver.
You know why? Wait, what?
Like
What you?
besides the front six teams, I should have worded that better. Besides the front six teams,
Oh,
I don't think there's a team better than Denver.
okay. For a second, I thought you just called Denver better than the top 16. I'm like,
No,
what is
no,
this hot take?
no.
Um,
I do think that they're better than the Chargers
so the reason
and
I
the
don't have the
Texans.
Broncos, yeah, probably. I think the Texans are kind of a weaker team. They just have an easy division. The thing that concerns me about the Broncos is kind of the same with the Commanders. Very, um, very they have a harder schedule, but they won a lot of one score games last year. And so if we're going to use the argument of losing a lot of one score games for teams like the Bengals, that also goes in favor of teams like the Bengals, but it goes against teams like the Commanders and Broncos, who were able to win a lot of those flip flop games. And another thing is the Broncos, they were so bad against playoff teams. I think the only playoff team they beat were the Chiefs with their starters out. Oh, they beat the Packers. There you go.
I also though think that you got to keep in mind we talk about winning a bunch of one score games hurts them. Well, you can't praise a team for losing a bunch of one score games. That's you're it's a,
I'm
that's a
not
that's a
no, I'm not praising them. I'm just saying,
no, but I'm saying people like to praise we like to praise the Bengals as if, oh well, they lost a bunch of one score games, they would have made it if this it. Well, they didn't. There's a coaching thing. Sean Payton and the Broncos know how to win one score games, know how to win these close games. I don't think it should be hated on for the Vikings a couple of years ago. I don't think it should be hated on for being able to win a bunch of one score games. It takes a talent and a skill as a coach to do that.
yeah, yeah. I'm not hating on that. I'm just you look at this, and it's funny you mentioned that Vikings team because that team's a perfect example. Statistically, it will even out over time. If you win a lot of one score games, you'll end up losing a lot of one score games later on. It evens out. You're not going to be, like the Kansas City Chiefs last year, where they literally winning all these one score games and it never evened out. They just kept winning them. I don't see the Broncos or the Commanders really having a run like that. So that's why I see them going down a little bit.
To be fair to Kansas City, they also only scored over 30 points one time all season, and it was a playoff game against the Bills,
Yeah.
which,
And
of course, it was.
funny enough, I actually have the Broncos having the same record that they had last year with 9-8. So I technically have a lateral move for them. I think their roster got better, but their schedule is not very favorable. I think that division is tough. They are, in my opinion, the third best team in their division. And if you're the third best team in a division, you're gonna have a hard time making the playoffs. Look at the Seahawks. They won 11 games, but they were the third best team in their division, so they didn't even make it. Um, so that is that is my not my first team out, but I think the best team out. Another team that I have out is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't trust Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has not shown us anything since his 2021 MVP campaign
It feels
to,
like he
to lead
disappeared.
people to believe that he'll save the Steelers.
I know he had his injury in the Jets, but I feel like he just disappeared. Like it wasn't even like he was hurt and then came back and was like weird. Is he just wasn't there?
I will say he was better last year than a lot of people give him credit for. A lot of people act like he was like a bad quarterback last year. He had above average statistics. Now I didn't watch every second of every Jets game. I've seen some people say that he was stat padding. I don't know if that's true. I would have to watch every Jets game over again. But statistically, it was a decent year for Aaron Rodgers. But I still don't see him. He is not the same quarterback he was 5 years ago. He's just not. And there's no stat that will tell me otherwise. He has not been good. The
I
year
think
that the Packers went 8-9, he was not that great. He was never good with the Jets. Why would he be good now?
I'm not even arguing that. I think you have to keep in mind though, there's one common denominator, and it happens to just be in sports, in only sports. For whatever reason, a retiring year player brings out more of a team, more of themselves, more. It just there's more of it. Aaron Rodgers has said on podcasts, I don't remember what he said this on, but I know he said that he is in his
He
final
said
year.
on the Pat McAfee
Pat
show.
McAfee show. Yes, thank
Yeah,
you. He said this is his final year. I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers, so that could change, but 9 times out of 10 chance, this is it, right? And I know if I know Aaron Rodgers the way that I've seen him on social media, uh, I think that he is planning on giving them one last everything I've got in my body because
of course.
I think that and some quarterbacks they like to just have the year and enjoy it. I don't think that's how I see Aaron Rodgers. I see him he wants to go out competitive. He wants to fight with everything he's got. I don't think that team makes it, but I think they're going to give it everything trying and we're going to see the best Aaron Rodgers we've seen since that MVP season.
Interesting. Which is a low bar, by the way.
Well, yes, not a very high bar. I should
He
clarify.
could
I
definitely
should clarify.
reach that, but
I should clarify. Being the best he's been since his MVP season to me means he's like the 20th best quarterback, which that's not even an insult. I mean, I can't play a 20th best quarterback in football, but
yeah, but it's not our job.
yes,
So
my
it's
job
his
is
job.
to sit here and critique him for doing
Yeah,
either subpar or praise him for doing well. And uh, I think that upcoming his last year, he's going to have a lot to prove.
yeah. Um. So yeah, Steelers 9-8, Broncos 9-8, Las Vegas Raiders 9-8. Honestly, I think if the Raiders go 9-8, I think they're happy. I think they're plenty happy. It would probably mean that Ashton Genty played well. It would probably mean that Geno Smith elevated them. And so I think if they go 9-8, they will be happy with that. I think they're going to be decent this year. Geno Smith, he may not have an elite arm. He actually has some sneaky
I,
speed,
I don't think he
but
has an elite anything to be quite
he
completely
just wins
honest,
games.
but he
He
does
just
win
wins
games.
games.
He has a clutch. Wouldn't have said this 10 years ago, but he has a clutch gene in him.
He's won so many. He's won so many games in those, playing from behind with 2 minutes left. I think he's won like 11 or 12 in just the past few years. So he just wins. You know what I mean? He may not have any elite, characteristics that you look for in a quarterback, but he just knows how to win. He's a perfect bridge quarterback for the Raiders while they try to remain competitive and draft, their quarterback of the future, hopefully, pretty soon.
The last thing I'll comment on your predictions here, the Titans. I don't even think
Yeah,
they're going to be good. I mean, we saw mine. I don't think they're going to be necessarily good, but worse than the Colts is my
bro,
take.
you have them winning
Wait,
4 games too.
wait,
What?
the Colts?
We have no the Titans.
Yeah, I was saying, but I have the Colts worse than that.
Wait, oh, okay. I thought you were dissing me
No,
for
I'm
having
saying,
the Titans.
no. I'm saying that the Colts. You got to think of it this way: the Titans drafted well, right? They got Cam Ward. They drafted well offensively, like offensive line. They're trying to keep him safe and healthy. My concern about them versus the Colts, which I'm sure is probably part of the reason why you put the Colts ahead, is because the Colts have a more consistent defense than the Titans. The Titans are, where were they? Like below the top 25? I think they were in the bottom 10, right? On defense
Yeah, I
last
mean
year.
pretty low. Pretty low.
So I see that concern, but I just needed to pick that because I think the Colts are terrible. I think that Daniel Jones, the starting quarterback, as a Giants fan, by the way, saying this, watching him play for 6 years or whatever it was, 5 years, they're not a good team. And I think that Daniel Jones versus Anthony Richardson as a starting battle, not a backup, the starting battle is disgusting. And I know Jonathan Taylor is great, but I don't trust him to carry that team past the Titans. I just think that's worth mentioning.
but we count on a rookie quarterback to do it.
No, yes, I do. I really do. I mean, it's happened the past 2 years.
Yeah. So
Z-
yeah, we
Data,
are looking for someone to
data,
break out.
data, in fact, is on the side of Tennessee.
So okay, so here's the reason I have the Colts being better than well, I have them having the same record. I guess they just win the tiebreaker, but I do think the Colts are a million times better than the Titans. And the reason I think that is because the Colts just have a better roster. And you think about what they've done the past few years, they've been a game or two out of the playoffs. You know what I mean? They're not a they are a very middle of the road team. And so and honestly, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I think Daniel Jones right now is an upgrade over Anthony Richardson,
I'm
which is crazy
sorry.
to say.
I'm sorry.
It's an upgrade right
No,
now.
he's not.
Anthony Richardson is awful right
Anthony
now.
Richardson's better than Daniel Jones. Did you see Daniel Jones last time he
Who won the
played?
starting job?
Anthony Richardson broke his pinky. I
Who
won't win
won
the
the
starting job. He broke his pinky. That's why they picked him.
Daniel Jones played better. That's why they picked him. And look, okay, I love Anthony Richardson and his upside. I want him to be good, and I don't think his career's over. I think he still could be good. Daniel Jones is an upgrade right now. Anthony Richardson was awful last year. Daniel Jones has I would have to look at the stats. I don't think Daniel Jones has ever had that bad of a year in his career. I don't think he's had. Now you
You're
know the
saying he
stats because you're a
was?
Giants fan. Maybe he has, but
His quarterback rating, not even his rating, his quarterback touchdown to interception ratio, not running, but just throwing. The season the Giants went to the playoffs was 15-9. 15
that's
and
better.
9.
That's a better touchdown interception ratio than Anthony Richardson's ever had.
Anthony Richardson's also been playing with the best receiver being Michael Pittman Jr., which no offense to Michael Pittman Jr., but in 2025 I don't consider him to be a receiver one.
Who was Daniel Jones' best receiver? Like Darius Slayton? Like he didn't have good weapons either. It was that Giants team was a defense team, just like the Colts. I think they're two very similar quarterbacks in the way that they've been carried by their defense. You know what I mean?
But I also don't think the Colts have a nearly as good defense as the Giants.
No, it's not as good, but I think Daniel Jones right now is an upgrade. He doesn't have the upside of Anthony Richardson, but with the way Anthony Richardson played last year, if they had Daniel Jones, they would have won probably an extra game or two, and that would have
Wow.
snuck them into the playoffs. I believe that right now, Daniel Jones is playing better than Anthony Richardson, and I have no doubt in my mind about that. Anthony Richardson right now he's an upside quarterback. He's not a performance quarterback. He's purely there because of his arm talent and his athleticism, and they're just hoping that it's kind of like Jalen Milroe with the Seahawks. We did not draft Jalen Milroe because he was a great quarterback in college. He really wasn't. He fizzled out after Saban left. We drafted him because of his traits, of his athletic ability, his athletic upside. I think that's exactly what's up with Richardson.
I'll say the last thing I will comment on before we get to our last part here is that of all of those mobile quarterbacks, there's a lot of them coming out of college now. The only one that has even come close to the Josh Allen comparison, the only one, is not even in the league anymore, is Trey Lance. He's the only one that was close in comparison.
He's still in the league.
No, I think he got cut by the Chargers, did he not?
I don't think. I don't know.
Regardless,
Let me see where Trey Lance. Let's see what this dude
yeah,
is.
yeah, where is he?
Trey Lance is he's still in the
He got,
Chargers.
okay. My point is, everyone tries to draft their version of Josh Allen. Strong arm, throw it down the field, can run, scramble, hurdle. The only person that was even close in college to that was Trey Lance. I don't see what this compare. Everyone's making these comparisons. You say Jalen Milroe, he's compared to Anthony Richardson, who's compared to Josh Allen. I'm like, I don't see it. But
I
that's
didn't. I don't think they're on the level of Josh Allen.
no, I'm not saying that I'm on the level, but they're compared to like as just the skill set, the talent trait, and I don't think
Yeah,
it's
I
there
don't.
either.
I still don't. I don't think that they were as good. Milrow definitely was not. I don't think they were as good in college as Allen was. You know what I mean? Like Jalen Milrow, he you ask any Alabama fan, I'm not an Alabama fan. I'm going from what they say and from watching, the few Alabama games I watched last year. He was awful. He was not a good quarterback. Anthony Richardson, he was better than Milrow, but I still don't think he was as good as Josh Allen. I think again you're relying on purely upside with them, but you know it is what it is. We'll see how
So
it pans out. I think over the long run, he could be better than Daniel Jones. Right now, Daniel Jones wins in more football games.
it's quite a take that I'm gonna have to agree to disagree with you on because I
All
think
right.
that is ridiculous. The last thing I want to hit on here before we kind of close ourselves out is the upcoming week because I mean it is NFL first week. We talked
Oh
about
yeah,
this, so Premier Week. We don't have to hit every game. There's 16 games, it'd be a lot to
yeah.
cover. But is there any one game or two that you sticks out to you want to give a thought of?
Sunday night football between the Ravens and the Bills is gonna be a banger. I cannot wait for that game. That's probably gonna end up being the game of the week. Another game that I like is the Packers and Lions game. I'm gonna be interested to see how Parsons fits in because very rarely in the NFL do we see a player go to a team with a week and a half notice.
I will say
That's
too, I think
that's like unheard of.
I think I heard something about him being hurt. It's back.
Really.
I heard something about that. I'm not.
Parsons?
I
Or are
don't
we
have the.
talking about Matthew Stafford?
Yeah, no part. Both. Both. Uh, but I don't know the reliable if it's a reliable source on Parsons, so I won't quote it. But I was hearing a couple things about that. So
I haven't
um,
heard that yet, but it could be something. But yeah, I'm gonna be very interested to see because you can you can correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen it in my time watching the NFL. A trade for a superstar player happen this late into the year. This is like a March deal. You know what I mean? But a week before the NFL season, and we're doing trades like this, that's incredible. I don't know how he's going to slot in. The Lions could be in for a tough game, or they might have it easier. Who knows? Well, it could be take a few games before we really see Parsons slot into that defense. So I'm going to be interested to watch that game. Um,
testament to how Jerry Jones runs the Cowboys in 2025.
what?
It's a testament to how Jerry Jones runs the Cowboys in 2025.
Yeah, I will say I do have kind of a contrary take about. I think that the Cowboys got the trade itself right. What they didn't get right was
Who they
they should have signed Micah Parsons a year ago.
or even 6 months
They could have
ago.
signed Parsons for like a $35 million deal if they did this even months ago. But instead they waited, and now all of a sudden they have to pay him too much that they're not willing to pay him. And then they messed that up.
They could have even paid him before TJ Watt. Even after Miles Garrett was paid, they could have paid him after TJ Watt.
Exactly,
Or
but
before him,
as
I
those
mean.
people keep getting paid, the price goes higher and higher, and suddenly they don't want to pay him. But the trade itself, I think they got good compensation. They got Kenny Clark, who's going to really help their run defense, and they got 2 first-round picks, which they are going to be low picks, but they're first rounders nonetheless. So I think the trade compensation itself was good, but if you're in a position where you're trading a generational talent, that's a mistake, and that's going to cost them big time.
Um, yeah, I know. I totally agree. I don't think that that was a smart move entirely. I think they could have just handled that way better. But
Hmm.
at that point, we hit August and Miles Garrett wanted out, so there was not. Or
Yeah,
Jimmy, Micah Parsons wanted out. Just thinking about Miles Garrett. Micah
yeah,
Parsons wanted out.
I knew you meant.
So there was nothing else they could have done. Um, Another game I'm
One last
interested.
game I want to
Oh,
touch
go ahead.
on:
Yeah, go ahead.
Chiefs
That
Chargers
is what I
in
was gonna say.
Brazil, Friday night. That is going to be a banger. That's going to be a fun game. Those two always, they always bring close games. You notice that the Chiefs will be really good, and the Chargers may be really bad. It doesn't matter. They're going to bring a good game.
Chiefs
So
always
that is going to be a fun game.
Chiefs are known for playing to their opponent, so that makes the Chargers games always especially very fun. Two rival teams.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm excited for that game. Uh, the two games I wanted to mention real quick. One of them being I'm interested in Bucks Falcons. Actually, I know that seems like a weird game, but I think Michael Penix is an interesting talent that I want to see have a starting after getting an entire offseason, knowing he's a starter, going into Tampa, which is a team known for being inconsistent at the start of the year. I want to see how that game plays out. I think that's an interesting game. Although I think Tampa takes that game, I think that's worth watching. And the other game I wanted to mention, which another game that you might not think to watch, I want to see Raiders Patriots because that tells me between those two teams, it shows me which team where everyone's speculating might be better than everyone thinks is actually going to be that. Whichever that's a bar comparison. You have the Patriots in the playoffs, for example. If they can't beat the Raiders, I have some questions. Point
Hmm.
blank.
I
If
can
the
see that.
if the Raiders can't beat the Patriots, that also leaves me some questions. So I think it's an interesting game to watch. If you had to ask me to give you an opinion on that, I would swing Raiders probably, but I just trust the experience.
Who's the home team?
I believe New England. I know it's hard to go to
Yeah,
Foxborough,
it
but
is. It is New England. That'll be a tough game, but hey,
uh,
we'll see. One thing I do want to touch on. Go back to the Falcons. We did not mention them in our prediction slides. I have them going 9-8. You have them going 6-11. I think the Falcons could be a sneaky good team this year. But I haven't seen enough out of Penix yet to assume he's going to be fantastic. I think he will be good, but I can't comfortably have them winning like 11, 12 games. Bef-
crazy, honestly.
you know, but I think if Penix could have a Jaden Daniels year, and that Falcons roster is more than strong enough to make a huge playoff pitch. We got to see it out of Kyle Pitts. He needs to step it up as well, and we need to see if that defense gets better. But the offense I like. So yeah, I think that could be a sneaky good team. I have them going 9-8 and missing the playoffs, but we'll see. They could be good.
The last two things I wanted to say, based on the two games you brought up, I will say I'm comfortably still taking the Chiefs over the Chargers this week, as much as that will be a fun game. I'm very confident on that. And the other game you mentioned, it's a rough pick, honestly.
Ravens, Bills.
Yeah, that's a really rough pick. I think I'm gonna lean Buffalo, but
It
I
is in Buffalo,
but
so.
I could see that going either way.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
we'll see.
Ravens historically they take a while to kind of kick off. They really usually start off the year slow. So I would agree with you on that. The Bills probably take that.
We'll see as time falls. But that is, I mean, unless you got anything else, that's pretty much all I got.
That wraps it up, I think, for our predictions, our week one predictions, our college football picks.
Yep, I think we hit everything. So with that being said, I wanted to thank everybody for stopping in and taking their hour and almost a half probably on this at this point for coming in and watching, listening to us talk our picks. I'm sure we are going to get stuff from people talking about how we left out their team for the playoffs and how I will tell you you're wrong. Uh, but thank you guys for coming and joining and watching us. Hopefully, we can catch you guys on Friday for our motorsports version of the show, which we'll see you guys in a couple days for that. And we'll talk football more next week, give you some reactions to college, give you some reactions to the NFL's first week of the season. So without further ado, I'm Mekhi Winfrey. That was Parker Merrey. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you in the future.